Hi everyone, we're back, and my son's making a lot of baby noises in the background. Hi. So you might hear a lot of baby noises for this video. I want to go over some of the concepts that we've learned already, the key ones, the most important ones, so you have them for the future and know that they are the most important things we've done so far in this class. One of them is this idea of living in the past, right? All undergraduate research needs to live in the past, not in the future. The future is where experts live. And even then, they live there very, very cautiously. Let me give you an example of what this is. Anytime you hear a should or could statement, that's a ding, ding, ding that you're arguing something that should happen in the future. Those statements are bad because you cannot prove them true. I could say there should be no illegal immigration in our country, but I literally have no way to prove this true because we've never banned or stopped the flow of illegal immigrants completely to the point where we've had a situation where there have been no illegal immigrants. So we don't know the consequences of that, right? So saying something should happen in the future, arguing in the future, has no route to proof. It's just your conjecture and belief based on correlation arguments of maybe what happened in other countries or what has happened when illegal immigration has suppressed a bit. But never, without the actual event having happened, do you have a strong argument that says this should happen. So should statements are bad statements. And this is the biggest mistake undergraduate students make, is they have this deep passion about an issue or a subject, and they really want to argue should. They want to say marijuana should be legalized. They want to say Title IX should be scrapped, or they want to say that women NBA players or soccer players should make as much as men. But they can't say that, because if you say that, you cannot prove it true. What you should say instead is that women in the NBA do not make as much as males in the NBA, even accounting for proportion of income, right? So a big argument is that the men bring in a ton more money than the females in basketball. But even when you account for the proportion of income of what the men generate, they get over 50% of the revenue, and women get like 35% of the revenue in the WNBA. So see, that's an argument that stands on 2 feet, because it's something that happened in the past that we can review the revenue streams and such, and we can have actual evidence of what makes this an argument. But when you argue something should happen, that has no evidence, and your paper would go nowhere. It would be like a paragraph long, and it would be over, and you probably won't get a great grade. I hope this makes sense. Let's move on to the next point. Paraphrases. The most common mistake, as you've seen, is student interjection of opinion, when it a pure paraphrase and summary is just the author's idea. That's it. The author's main point, if it's just a summary. If it's a paraphrase, the author's main point, sub-arguments, and a few pieces of evidence, just the appropriate evidence that is correlated to your argument. So you've also learned CSC structure. This is claim, support, conclusion structure, where you end a section or paragraph where you started. You don't change the meaning of an argument from where you started to where you end. And in the middle is all that evidentiary stuff that we're learning about. It's the paraphrase, it's the summary, it's the quick facts, it's the ideas, it's all the stuff you cite. And you have your own analysis sprinkled in there, but basically it's evidence. You've learned formatting. You guys are awesome at this formatting business. You are doing your large headers fantastic. Your small headers fantastic. In MLA, everything is double spaced. When in doubt, double space, even the full header. Paragraphs, I want to point out, always have indents. We have had a few incidences of this class where paragraphs aren't being indented. You just press the tab key once when you go on to a new paragraph. That's all you do. We don't put a space. We don't do block paragraphs. We do indents with no space between paragraphs. And in your lab 1, I showed you how to get rid of those pesky spaces. So make sure that if you forget, you're referring back to lab 1 in this class. You know how somewhat to do in-text citations, right? And good in-text citation is basically just a citation, a parenthetical in a paper in which there's a last name of the author and the page number of the author in MLA. So let's go over MLA APA dynamic real quick. So in MLA, you have the author's last name, no comma, page number. In APA, as I have up here, you have the author's last name, comma, year. Notice what I just highlighted here. I have a semicolon and then another last name, comma, and another year. You can do that. That's if two different sources are saying the same thing. You can put both sources to show the strength of that statement that you're making. It's a strong statement if two different sources are saying the same thing. In fact, you don't have to just do two. If you really want to, you can do several. And something along the lines of this. This shows that whatever I said before this was incredibly strong, well supported in the field of study. So this is good to do, the semicolon business with a bunch of stuff. This stands for both APA and MLA. So in MLA, if I wanted to do the same thing, I would do the author's last name, no comma, page number, semicolon, author's last name, and so on and so forth. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. What else have you learned how to do in this class? You haven't learned the works cited page yet, but you will. But basically, let's talk about it. So you have a paper and you have in-text citations in that paper. For instance, we know from previous videos that grant level performance is a title, and that this title is not in quotes. So because it's not in quotes, that means it's a longer work, and longer works should be in italics. This is my paper. So this should be in italics because it's not in quotes and it's a longer work. Grant level performance. Okay, 2013. So this is an APA. So now if we go to a full text citation, some of you have questions on even what this is. The full text citation are here. And they relate directly to every in-text citation you have in a paper. Now, grant level performance was the name of that, right? So I should be able, because these are in alphabetical order, to go to grant and find it. And I can, right here. Now, the reason you have a full text citation is because the in-text citation is supposed to point to the full text. And then from here, I can find this. Academics can find whatever your source is based on the full text. This is really important because if they don't believe you, or they think you misrepresented a paraphrase or summary, or they think you missed a critical point, or they want to look it up for themselves because it's very interesting what you're saying, they need to be able to find the original document. And they can't do that without the full text citation. So this is a full text citation in APA. And I just wanted to show you what they were, how they relate to the in-text, and how they reference where they can find it in the world. We're going to talk more about this in future videos. Okay, so what else have you learned? You've learned that when there's no page number in an in-text citation, it means it's either one page long or it's a web article that's really long and I don't expect you to count the paragraphs. You learned that if it's under 10 paragraphs and there's no page number, that you can count the paragraphs and do PARA. You learned how to quote continuously with the sentence. You learned that do not change the meaning of your claims and your conclusions, that they should be round. You learned that an authorless source, like we just said, when their source is authorless, like right here, you would list the title of it instead of the author. You learned that you can cite as many times as you want in one sentence, and you learned to introduce authority. Also, if you put things in brackets, you can introduce your own ideas in quotes when you use brackets. So in the next video, that was just a summary of what you've learned so far, which was a ton in this class. But in the next video, let's go over some grammatical stuff, some stuff to remember when you're actually writing. This is kind of a boring part of class, let's throw it out there, but it's really important for getting good at writing. So I'll go quickly over the grammatical stuff and then we'll move on. So watch the next video with Joy. Yay.